You are live. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Board of Elections and Registration monthly board meeting. Let's call the meeting to order at 5:01 p.m. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The is approved. Before you proceed, I would like to ask our board and staff to please mute your phones if you're not speaking. Secondly, are there any citizen comment at this time?
Madam Chair, this is Director Kidd. We had no citizens turn in any requests to speak at this month's board meeting.
Great, thank you, Director Kidd. Next, we will have the approval of board meeting minutes for June 9th, 2022, and the June 27th certificate meeting that was held. Can I have a motion to approve both minutes for those meetings?
I'll make a motion to approve both sets of meetings for June.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Hearing none. Thank you. Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Next, we'll have felon hearings.
During the last meeting, I mentioned that letters had been mailed out to potential voters that may be affected by the change. Since the letters were mailed 3 days prior to the June meeting, it was not sufficient time for the voter to receive and respond to letter by the June meeting. Letters were mailed to 56 voters and none were returned. July felon notices have not been delivered to our office from the Secretary of State.
Okay, thank you for that update, Ms. Bowen. Any questions from the board? Okay, hearing none. Next, we'll go to office operations report.
Mr. Bowen will start the office operation report.
At the conclusion of the June 21st runoff, we began compiling street and ward information for the City of Douglasville's redistricting process. These changes will be made over the following weeks as they relate to the city ward changes. Voters affected by these changes will be mailed updated precinct cards.
I have the next piece of that. The elections office wanted to have these changes in place prior to the November election because the county will be seeking to add a question to the November ballot of a SPLOST, a special purpose local option sales tax, to the November ballot. This SPLOST will be held in conjunction with the municipalities of the cities of Douglasville and the city of Villa Rica and the county. All three will be receiving proceeds from the SPLOST. Therefore, they are having joint planning sessions in order to address what will be on these SPLOST agenda items. They are scheduled to present this at the next scheduled board meeting, to which after that voting meeting, the Board of Elections will receive the language as well as when the county issues the official call for that special election to be held in conjunction with the November general.
Sounds good.
All right.
I have a question, please. That will be
Yes.
I'm sorry. That'll be a special election?
The SPLOST itself, when you add a question to the November ballot, it's technically considered as a special election because you have to issue a call for an election. It'll appear on the same ballot, so voters won't feel the difference. It's just a coding that is special.
Okay, thank you.
That was a question also. Yeah, that was my question also. Thank you.
Great. Okay.
And during the months of July and August, when registration activities began to pick up prior to the November general election, it is customary for our staff to offer refresher training on registration processes and practices. We will begin to schedule what we have termed registration boot camps for staff members to stay abreast of changes to the registration process. This will include attending state trainings on the new voter registration system, Jarvis, which will be implemented statewide after the November the 8th general election.
Okay.
Is
The
that
next, that's the end of for Ms. Green. The next piece of office operations report is as following. I attended a scheduled hearing today to address challenges to the decisions of the Board of Elections and Registration around the candidacy of an individual involved in the Chief Magistrate race. Attorney Watson is on the call and will provide a brief overview of the hearing. Attorney Watson.
Thank you, Director Kidd. How's everybody doing this evening?
great? Thank you.
I'm glad none of you decided to come to that hearing earlier today. We did have a hearing before, I think it was Judge McClain.
Yes.
And a counsel from my office raised arguments in support of the action this board took, and counsel for candidate Ryan Williams raised issues in support as well. I've discussed that in any depth that you wish, but the court heard all the issues and promised to make a decision by tomorrow afternoon, end of business tomorrow afternoon. He questioned vigorously the arguments that we made, particularly since there wasn't a specific statutory provision creating the avenue for us to do exactly what we did. But of course, there was no prohibition against it either. And we were trying to do the best we could under the circumstances. There also are very legitimate questions about whether the appellant, Mr. Camp, was the proper party to raise the issues that he raised, and or was entitled to any of the relief that he requested. So they're very genuine questions of law, I think, before the judge, and we will hear how he comes out tomorrow.
Okay. Other than any questions that you all may have, this concludes office operations report, Madam Chair.
Great. Thank you all for your updates. Any questions for anyone that spoke from the board?
Yes, ma'am. This is Bob.
Yes, go ahead.
Attorney Watson, what are the ramifications of the ruling tomorrow? What are the?
We don't know the ramifications until we know the ruling, but Bob, either party might appeal the ruling, whatever it is, and so obviously we can't predict that, but either way it may get appealed, and then two, if it doesn't get appealed, I'm not sure we're exactly sure of the ramifications, but let's say, for the instance, if we get ruled against the Board of Elections and Registration, that would be a determination that Ryan Williams isn't on the ballot properly. One, I expect that to be appealed, but two, we'd have to figure out, there are other things that could happen to still move that forward, or we could, at an extreme, they could be left as a write-in candidate or something like that for the party. But there are a few different options that could pertain if we were ruled against. If we're ruled in favor, then I expect Camp will appeal.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Will you all share that with us as soon as the ruling is shared, Director Kidd?
Yes, once that's disseminated by the courts, we will transmit that to this board.
And And he said it would be done by the end of business tomorrow. He said by 5 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Be on the lookout.
Any more questions from the board? Perfect. Thank you all again. Next, we'll go into election recap report. That was on.
Yes. Mr. Involved.
So I'm going to share my screen again. Just give me 1 moment. Are you guys seeing that?
Yes, sir.
So I spoke briefly last time. The key point I wanted to raise last time was, you should only, if you're comparing with other results, you should compare like and like. With the runoff, we have a little bit of difficulty doing that. As you can see, in 2018 gubernatorial year, we had a runoff. Both Republican and Democratic had a runoff. You can see the totals there. The Republican runoff involved, the headliner, the governor's race. Kemp went to a runoff. The Democratic was just a state superintendent. So you can kind of see the difference of the draw between races like that. This time we had the highest state level was lieutenant governor, and you're looking at that not even 4% turnout. So there's nothing, I think, that you can fairly compare as far as growth or anything like that, which I did last time. But I think you can take a look at this absentee by mail number. Again, since 2020, we're seeing more absentee by mail voting. Many reasons for this. More people qualified to probably speculate. But it's going up above that 5% turnout. In this case, I did just happen to look. Almost all of the absentee by mail ballots were people designated elderly or disabled and could have been on that rollover list. But the results have been certified. This was just a quick comparison to previous elections. Answer any questions if you guys have any questions about that.
Thank
No.
you, Matt.
Madam Chair, I do have a question.
Okay.
I want to make sure, Mr. Malcolm, thank you very much for the information. So the approximate number,
Malcolm, I have a quick question.
approximately 4% of registered voters voted in the runoff election. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And, I'd have to do some further digging.
Add a little caveat to this. The runoff election that we just had was a party-specific runoff election.
Mm-hmm.
So we only had a Democratic candidate on the ballot too, though. So those numbers typically are going to be lower because you're not representing the totality of the voters affected as well. So although those percentage totals take into account the total number of individuals at those precincts, only the individuals that voted previously in the Democratic runoff or individuals that voted nonpartisan or individuals that didn't vote were able to participate in this runoff election.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, Michelle.
Yeah, just a quick question. Malcolm, on your spreadsheet, you have AIP and ED. I think I know what those mean. Can you?
Sorry, that would be advance in person, absentee by mail, and election day.
Okay, perfect. And then the other question I have is, I know you shared some statistics also on the last call on this, and I think it's great. I love the data. I'm just wondering if the greater population wanted to get access to any kind of voter statistics. Is there somewhere that they can look? Can they submit a request? Like, how does the general
that's public
population
information from the Secretary of State's website.
Okay.
And you would go to the Secretary of State's website into the elections section. It's pretty much the most front piece of that website. And then you can select each election. It goes back into the 80s. And, go ahead and we urge the public, go ahead and play with those spreadsheets. You know, there's a lot of data in there, and it's
Yeah.
completely free to everybody to look at.
Okay, and they can do it by county, by precinct.
By county, by precinct, all that data is there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Great questions. Any additional questions? Great. Thank you, Malcolm.
Madam
Next
Chair,
one.
if there are no more questions before we go to the next one, I would like to make the following statement. I would like to thank all of the staff, all the poll workers, the managers, the facilities for helping to ensure that Douglas County citizens have equal and fair access to the ballot box, and that Douglas County continues to be the gold standard of elections. It takes a village to pull off each and every election, and I wanted to make sure to thank everyone that was involved in this process.
We are certainly in agreement with you. Thank you all. Next, we'll go into old business.
There is no old business on the agenda at this time to bring before this board.
Thank you. New business.
We have no new business agenda items to bring before the board at this time.
Thank you. Any board member concerns at this time? Hearing none. Our next regular board meeting is Thursday, August 11th at 5:00 p.m. If there's no other business, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Been properly moved. Thank you all. Have a great evening, and we'll see you August 11th.